Hello, welcome to the channel. Welcome to this video. It's not clickbait. The makeup era is over and we're gonna talk about it today. I didn't want to make this video because I didn't want to be dramatic. I don't feel like everything has to be announced. And for many things, our actions are allowed to just stand for themselves. But I didn't just want to change core content without saying anything. And whether or not I say anything, if you're a longtime viewer or somebody who is here for a specific kind of content, you'll notice more than just what things mean for my channel and the kind of content that I make. I think that there's an interesting conversation to be had about what happens to us when our interests change and evolve. Because when we find a new interest, we have a lot of people who we can talk to. When we join a community, there's lots of excited people who are there who are just as excited as you are about whatever given interest you're interested in. But what happens when you are no longer interested? There are fewer people to talk to, and if you've been a part of a community for a really long time, it can be really difficult to leave, quote unquote, or pivot or change interests. I still don't even know what the word is, but it can feel a lot of things when you realize, oh, this isn't for me anymore. This content isn't for me anymore. And it could even affect your identity as a person if you've identified as somebody who is a part of the beauty community, is a makeup lover, or is a reader or a painter, and these things are just they're no longer. You can even feel part of your identity is gone or shifted if you don't like this thing anymore. It could lead you to question yourself. What do I even like anymore? Who am I? It can lead to other things. Sometimes it's not that dramatic, but sometimes it can be. And we're going to talk about all of these things today. If you have felt a shift in an interest or a hobby, and also specifically the beauty community, I hope that this video finds you and that it resonates with you. I got into makeup as a hobby in 2014. It became a hobby because of beauty YouTube. I did not know a community of people existed online who loved all things beauty. As soon as I found beauty YouTube, my purchasing got out of control with it. I went from a small makeup bag of products. I remember that makeup bag very vividly. It's a Sonia Kashuk makeup bag, and it went from that one makeup bag to 150 lipsticks in about a year. And for a while I was buying everything and I wasn't thinking about the ramifications of my choices. And I just didn't think about those things because I was I felt like I found my people. And a lot of what is built into the beauty community is not just this excitement about new makeup and new releases, but also purchasing them. And those things went hand in hand for me as well. And this started to change for me around 2019. I would say 2019, my purchasing was probably at an all-time high. And that's the time I started learning about no bias and conscious consumerism, basically for the first time in the beauty space. And then I decided to go my no buy in 2020. I'm not trying to say that the beauty community is trash because there's so many people over consuming in it. The beauty of the beauty space is that there are so many different pockets within it, and you don't have to buy anything to be a part of the beauty space. And when I created my channel in 2020, while I conceptualized myself as a no-buy kind of creator, conscious consumer creator, I felt as though my channel was still within the beauty space. And I had a right to be there as well as anybody who was making haul or VIP content or anything like that. And I loved the beauty space for having so many pockets to it. And it grew and evolved with me as my interests changed. And when I did start my channel, I did very much have an interest in beauty, in makeup, in skincare, in the art of applying makeup and the joy of applying makeup, regardless of skill or talent level that I had at the time. I liked to learn about the industry. I liked learning about what was new. I liked being excited about new releases alongside other people. I liked experimenting with new looks and trying things out and swatching things. I liked I also really liked applying makeup. It's very much like a zen kind of time, very relaxing. It was all a real joy. When I first started my channel, I was very much enmeshed in the beauty space because that was where one of the biggest it was my biggest problem area, to be honest. And in 2020, I began contending with my stuff in like the way that I knew how. And 2022 was a real watershed era for me, real watershed year. And honestly, I feel like changed my life in a way that I didn't expect. And then also began changing the channel. My mindset really began to shift as a result of the contentment year. I didn't start out with the intention of shifting my content. I ultimately had a desire to find contentment, and I was willing to go wherever that took me. Okay, so it's a little while later. Had to have a bit of an intermission, but I'm back and I'm going to continue my thought. I wouldn't have said anything, but there's just like a bit of an outfit change. One thing that I learned last year was that some of my perspectives before the contentment year, as well as some of the tests, some of the experiments that I was conducting in the name of contentment, were really stuff focused. No buys and minimalism really center stuff to the center of solutions. It makes our solutions stuff oriented. It keeps stuff at the center of our minds, and it really makes stuff an integral part of the solution. What I learned is that when I decenter stuff from my life, when I deprioritize stuff, I ultimately think about it less. I found that I was happier when I was trying out all of these contentment ideas that had nothing to do with stuff. I was happier when I wasn't counting the stuff in, when I wasn't making videos on like my physical products and I wasn't cataloging things. The TLDR of it all is when you deprioritize stuff, you think about it less. It consumes less of your mental energy and your time. Having a channel that is in the beauty space makes my content stuff focused to a degree. Making content on stuff means that I'm thinking about stuff at a greater degree than I would if I wasn't making content on stuff or if I wasn't on YouTube. And here's the thing, being on YouTube is wonderful. And even a video that's unscripted like a Project Pan, I'm thinking about my physical stuff all of the time. I'm in front of it now, open my drawer to look at it. And like, I'm thinking about how much progress I've made. I'm making sure that my stuff is out so that I'm seeing it. Like, I'm genuinely thinking about my Project Pan items all of the time. And then when I have a scripted video that is, let's say, underhyped makeup or makeup I used to love that I now hate, by constantly thinking up video topics that are stuff centered, like there's hours, like I'm spending hundreds of hours per year in the content production space that I'm just thinking about it way more by virtue of being on YouTube. Now, when it comes to project panning, I feel like project panning is an interesting conversation in itself. And project panning is a use what you have thing. And project panning really does put stuff at the center of your makeup life in a really great way. And it was wonderful for me for a long time because it taught me so many lessons. And there was a time where I felt like I really did need to focus on panning to remind myself of how much makeup that I actually own. And also in taking ownership of my makeup instead of decluttering it, taking responsibility for the life of my product and knowing that it is going to be used and finished. And this whole concept of responsibility is really important to me in the whole life cycle of your product. But also teaching me how long it takes to use up stuff and how many years worth of makeup I have. And also, helping me think twice about buying new things. And, when you have, a box full of blushes here and you want to go and buy a new blush and you've been working on the same one for 6 months, 7 months at this point, like I've been spending 7 months on this. I don't know if I'll pan this year. Like if you're in the panning space, like, I did need to change a lot about how I thought about my makeup life, and project panning was central to both my thought processes, but also how I shopped, and also using up stuff as well. And in the last 3 years, my habits and mindset have changed drastically. I think knowing where I am now in my consuming life as a whole, makeup specifically as well as clothes, I think it would shock 2019 Shauna. And the progress that I've made, I'm going to get like a little emotional here for a second. The progress that I've made is life-changing, like genuinely life-changing. My makeup collection is about in half to where it was 3 years ago. And many categories are at like their baseline minimum. Like you couldn't get, any fewer. Other categories are still a little bit bloated, and they probably will be. Like I'll probably own more than one thing or more than two things, but the progress is there. Like I've made huge strides, and in makeup speaking, I'm kind of at a point where, let's take the blush category. This is most of them, not all of them. In order to shrink down this box of blushes to, let's say, even 5, I have roughly 15 blushes at this point. To make it about 5 blushes, I could not do that from panning alone. And what this year in specific in panning has taught me is that by focusing on this one blush, all 14 other blushes have fallen by the wayside. They're just not getting their use, and they're just sitting around most days. And unless I kind of spread the love a little bit, they will literally just sit in a drawer until they expire, grow mold, and like will have to be thrown out. And so I'm at the point where panning is doing more of a disservice than it is helping, because in the areas that I have few options, I'm like using stuff to completion and then like buying a new thing, or I'm mixing colors because a color isn't right and it's still like, it's not something that actually needs to pan, so it's not all that exciting, or I don't have that many options. Or in categories like my blushes, I'm not going to focus on a super shock shadow for 2.5 years to the detriment of the other 5, single shadows that I have. It just, panning doesn't make the sense that it used to in my mind. And also panning really feels like, for me, a bit of a holdover from the obsessive behavior that I used to have with things. Now, I don't think that you are obsessive because you pan. I am applying this just to my life. Before my no-buy, I was obsessed with things. And my no-buy made me obsessed with things in a different way. I was all about the minutiae of my stuff, about tracking and progress in every way possible, counting all of my pieces of makeup. How much makeup did I have? How much was it worth? How many uses can I get out of this thing? How many things can I finish this year? And then, how many cleansers did I finish this year? I was just like obsessed with counting all of the things that I could with my makeup collection. And there was a time where doing these things served me. And it was really rewarding to know that I finished 56 makeup products one year, or 64 makeup products the year before, or I finished 102 samples. That was really rewarding. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that I shouldn't be checked into how much I'm spending or how much I'm using, or being aware of my consumption levels. That's not it. I just don't want to obsess about it anymore. And project panning now has kind of entered into the realm of feeling like obsessive, feeling like it's just making me anxious, because I'm thinking all of the time about making progress and using the thing, when like it's just causing like mental anxieties now that absolutely don't need to be there. I put out a video like early July and then disappeared. It wasn't intentional. And this was the second time in about 4 months where I didn't make a project panning video. When you look at the history of my channel, I have never missed a project panning video until 2023. They were enjoyable for me to make. And missing that second video in July was all the confirmation that I needed, because it felt like missing an upload should never feel like a sigh of relief. And that was all the confirmation I needed to really know that panning content is not fulfilling or helpful anymore based on the size of my collection and all of the things that I've mentioned previously. All of this is to say is that I have made my last project pan video. I didn't expect my last project pan video to be the last one, but when I think about like what I want and like what feels good, project panning doesn't feel that way anymore. And I've heard some people stop painting or change how they are painting, and I was like, great, good for you, glad that worked, but like that will never be me. And I think I was just really stuck on this idea of like what I should do and like what my community expects of me. And also like project pans have been a staple on this channel since the beginning. They have been a core strategy that I've used to be in touch with my makeup consumption. It's like hard to say goodbye to something that has been a staple, has been a foundation. And it's done an exceeding amount of good for my habits and for everything. And it's only been in 2023 that it has not served its intended purpose. And so with that, I don't think makeup inventories are all that helpful to me either anymore, because as I've mentioned, the size of most categories are in line. You know, whether I'm at 109 things or 120 things, like that's not going to break my makeup collection or my finances. I say this with all the kindness in my heart. For myself, I kind of don't care. Like I don't care if I have 109 things or 120, because ultimately my spending is in check, and I have proven that to myself over the last 365 days. But also when you look at January, you know, my last holdover category was fashion, and that is in line as well. All of the evidence in my life suggests that I am a conscious consumer. I am a considered consumer. And I'm spending in the ways that I want to, and I'm spending the ways with my makeup that I want to. I'm just mentioning the other factors as like, here are all the other examples that are giving me evidence to suggest that my behavior is well in check and has been for a while. I feel like I've been acting in a very similar way since 2020, when my habits have changed so drastically. All I really need now is maintenance, which is a different set of behaviors. What this kind of gets into is a lot of the hobby and community talk now. This might be different. I think we would be having a different conversation if makeup was still a hobby, because you don't have to own hundreds of makeup products in order for makeup to be a hobby for you. And we were talking about this earlier. If I enjoyed having Zen time or makeup playtime or swatching or trying things on, or even keeping up with new makeup releases and like duping things out of my own collection, or that could still be a hobby. I do not enjoy makeup in the same way that I used to. And it's the further we get along in 2023, the further I am, or I don't know, like the more I just want to get rid of all my stuff, because it's like, do I use this? Do I even care about it? And I most likely will not buy any lipsticks, blushes, or eyeshadow palettes this year. And whenever I run out of primer, probably will be like it for a while. And so makeup as a whole and all of its facets don't interest me in the same way as before. And even what I watch on YouTube, I have unsubscribed from every beauty content creator, to my knowledge, except for Lara and Sarah. And it's not to say that, oh, and Jamie Page. It's not to say that I think I'm like above the community or anything like that, or even that I think that everybody else makes bad beauty content. No, that's not the case at all. All of these creators are making such wonderful beauty content. It just doesn't resonate with me the same way as it did before. I'm truly happy with my makeup life, and my makeup is honestly not something I want to think about all that much, which is such a drastic departure from just even 2 years ago. And this kind of gets me into the discussion about the community, which is really hard. I have been a beauty lover and in the YouTube beauty space specifically for nearly decades, since 2014. being a beauty lover, makeup lover has been such a part of my identity, how I see myself as a person, how I catalog and consider my behaviors and interests, and also like how I spend my time and my hobbies. The beauty space was so powerful to me for so long because it was such a comfort. I had nobody outside of beauty YouTube until I found it who liked makeup to the same degree that I did. I had nobody to like talk shop with, nobody who cared as much as I did, or almost at all about beauty things. And outside of beauty YouTube, I feel like even as recently as 2021, I have been criticized for my interest in beauty. I've been, called shallow and vapid and stupid, and have been made to feel lesser than and belittled by people who think that loving makeup makes you stupid and vapid and like a dumb woman, like, oh, like all the stupid things women are into. And it's like, yeah. I talked about some of this in a video I made last year, but being high maintenance, and even this, like the concept of like women who enjoy beauty and like women's interests almost generally as like dumb because they're women's interests. And when I found the beauty space, it was truly like I found my freaking people, Who remembers the Sweet Peach launch, the ABH launch, Fenty Beauty? Like, people were going to these parties and people were getting to do the things I wanted to do. I wanted to line up in store for Fenty Beauty, and I got to watch people live that out, and I eventually bought it like much later. I loved watching all of the makeup girlies, and I had so much excitement, but then also like I learned so much from all the people I saw on online in the beauty space, learning tutorials, learning to craft my skills, and a lot of the excitement that they had for their makeup made me excited about my makeup. The palettes I had, getting taught how to use them, getting inspiration to use my own makeup, but then like swatching and duping things out. And I was holding on to that, and I feel like I've cultivated a little, like, I don't know, like a little corner of the beauty space as like a creator now. And people who were like me and like who really wanted to use what they had and prioritize like their smaller makeup collection and painting, and people who like loved beauty in kind of similar ways that I did, I like clung on to that. And there is truly a sadness that this community that welcomed me and made me feel excited and validated in my interests. And it does feel sad to be growing and changing and not feel the same way about this space anymore. And it's not because the space has changed or shifted. It's just that I have. And also, I just want to make a comment. This is not about age either. It's not like, oh, I'm older, therefore I'm wiser. Hell no. You're allowed to be a beauty lover at any age. What sealed the deal for me was considering makeup in the context of another hobby, which is reading. Reading is a hobby for me that I feel like I've had a renaissance with over the last year and a half, like since the start of last year. And when I consider reading as a hobby for me, it really put into light the context of how much I've shifted in my interest in beauty. Because reading is one of those things where like I enjoy reading time. I feel so good, and I feel like reading is one of those things that makes life feel so wonderful. Like it's something that like nourishes me. Not that like it's a particular kind of context, like reading only nourishes me if it's like self-development. Good for you if all you read is self-development, but like reading is so nourishing because it's a creative hobby. It's a creative outlet. I get to read and consume different worlds and different ways of interpreting and thinking about things and just different stories. It's such a wonderful hobby. And it is a stuff-based hobby similar to makeup, and you can overconsume and you can overbuy in both. You can stay on top of new trends and new releases. Both can make you feel like you buy or need to buy new things, but ultimately, like, reading does feel a little bit different simply because the library exists and ebooks exist. You don't actually ever have to own anything, even if you buy stuff. While makeup application used to be Zen time, it not is anymore. And that really hits home when I consider how I feel when I read. And I like carve out time most days to read. I feel like you get it. If I'm staying to my true, like my own desires for contentment, like if I follow that, makeup just doesn't contribute to my contentment anymore. And it's something I don't really want to think about all that much. Like, I just want to have a really simple makeup routine and I don't want it to take a lot of thought and energy. Whereas, like, I want to make that space for reading and my reading life. Hobbies and personal interests are integral to leading a content life, and being honest about what those are for you and for me are like, you have to be honest is all I'm trying to say. And the thing is, though, is when you follow contentment, it will lead you to exactly where you need to be. And like, it will lead you to the truth, your truth anyways. I feel like the last question is 2 parts. What does content look like on this channel? And also, like, if makeup content wasn't fulfilling, you know, why was I still making it? And I guess I'll address the second question first, and we'll end on like what content will look like. Because I feel like that might just matter a little bit less. I don't know. You tell me. A lot of makeup content doesn't need scripting, and it's easier content to make, first and foremost. Some of it does, and when it does need, like project panning, doesn't need to be scripted. And those are like reliable videos I could do once a month that are just like kind of feel like easy in a good way. And that has always brought like a lightness to the channel and like the whole filming editing schedule. And when I do film content that's makeup related, it's like easier and typically like not that research based, and I can lean into my own opinion. Or if I lost all my makeup, what would I buy first? I don't need to do all that much research. I can take a look at like what's at Sephora, like what's at the drugstore, but that's not hours worth of research. Like I like read a whole book on habits in order to talk about habits. Or there's a video coming on the pipeline about perfectionism and its relationship to shopping and contentment, and like I ran a lot for that. So even scripted videos in the makeup context are like easier to do because they're mostly my opinion. But also I was thinking through this lens of makeup for a long time that it was just like easier to come up with these ideas. I think one of the last holdouts was I felt like it was content that people expected from me, and I really didn't want to disappoint, and I didn't want to alienate anybody. It, as kind of what I was mentioning earlier about Project Pans in specific being a staple on this channel, it's really a mental hurdle to stop doing a thing that you feel like is a staple or a foundation. And sure, I've introduced new topics over the last year and a half, but there is still something mentally about, oh, this thing is a staple, and it's hard to let that go. And like I hadn't made that mental leap yet. And you know, there was nobody out here like demanding that kind of content from me. It was all like me, really. So what does content look like on my channel going forward? There will be no more project pans, and there will not be any more makeup inventories. I won't be doing videos like 1 week, 1 palette. I didn't do that many, but there was a self-conscious shift a couple months ago. I was planning another one, and I was like, you know what? This doesn't feel like fulfill me anymore. Like, time to put that on hold. We're not gonna do that. Anything that's like explicitly makeup related, like overhyped makeup, if I had to set my makeup collection over again, those will not be there. I've done a makeup haul, like a drugstore makeup haul, about once a year. I won't be doing that. I'm still undecided about empties, because I do love hoarding the empties, but it feels very beauty, and I don't really know. I haven't made my mind up about that. Like, that's just very candid. I will very likely, like in all likelihood, still do the occasional get ready with me. I do enjoy doing that from time to time. Those will stay. Not like once a month or anything, but kind of like as I feel like I want to chat about stuff. I'm a chatty gal. You know, this video is probably a million years long. So I'm still going to talk about shopping and overconsumption, and we'll talk about various topics. And a lot of those videos aren't makeup specific. They're shopping specific. And in those videos, I will talk about, hold on, I'm pulling up my channel now. Yeah, like when I'm scrolling through my last handful of videos, contentment year update, intentional spending update, treat on birthday spending, spending in the name of aesthetics, all videos I would still continue to make. Romanticizing your life, FOMO and shopping, those kinds of things. I'll probably still talk about no-buy content every now and then, and I might use makeup examples in there, but like I'm not against makeup. And for that matter, like I'm not against beauty. I'm not like, oh, I hate it all. I think it all sucks. I don't love beauty. I don't like fashion. I don't like skincare. Or like I have absolutely no interest in beauty at all. And that was one of my fears in making this video, sorry for the chair squeaking, that like it would come across as in like I hate all things beauty, which is just not it. I just wanted to take up less mental space, and I can still like, I don't know, buy some makeup or shop on Sephora every now and then, but like I don't need to make it an integral part of the channel. Lastly, I'm kind of curious as to how you would label this channel. Like, would you now in 2023 label this channel as a beauty channel? And well, the YouTube algorithm says yes, says I'm beauty over everything. And I do like want to work on changing that. When I look at the channel stats, the kind of analytics, I was looking yesterday and I think there's only 2 channels out of approximately like 15 or so that aren't beauty channels that YouTube is saying is similar. One of them is Christina Mychas, Mychas. She's a Canadian YouTuber, formerly Style Apotheca. Y'all watch her, and she's kind of, in the vein YouTube's kind of comparing me against. And I think one other person. Everybody else is beauty. Kelly Gooch, Lauren May Beauty, Annalise Poston is in there, Sarah Rose, Rebecca Morgan, Lara. And I would like for the algorithm to stop labeling me as a beauty channel, because I do think that I have important things to say, and even like this idea of like shopping and contentment, just like in those 2 spheres alone, I think that message being exclusively in the beauty space means that other people who benefit from it like don't hear it, because this is what YouTube is recommending me to a lot of beauty people with a beauty interest, and I like my stuff to be recommended to people outside of that. And I am certain that there are things that I can do to help that shift, and how YouTube kind of categorizes your videos. There's a lot of things, including the words that you speak in your video, your tags, your thumbnail, and your description are all like cues the algorithm uses to recommend your content and label your content. And so hopefully by saying words like mascara less and talking less about Sephora and blush will kind of help the algorithm recommend me to different people. We will see. And with that, if you're somebody here who's exclusively for the project painting content, I really want to say to you that it has been an absolute privilege and a treat to be in your subscription feed for however long I have been. And I totally understand if the channel is no longer for you. I get it. Thank you for inviting me into your world and being a part of your YouTube life for a bit. For those of you who are still here for shopping talk, consumption talk, contentment talk, potentially some no-buy talk, intentional spending, kind of all of those, what I feel like are usual suspects for me, I appreciate you as well. And I hope that we can continue making some really amazing content that you find interesting and enjoyable to watch. Regardless of where you stand, thank you so much for being a part of my journey over the last 3 years, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for us. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I appreciate you. And with that, a load off my shoulders, bittersweet, but thank you for watching. And I really hope I will see you again around here soon.